This is the Private Officer Beat Radio with Rick McCann at the microphone. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Private Officer Beat Radio, a production of Private Officer International and Blue Ram Media Group, LLC. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you all for listening to our programs. I noticed more and more, actually, we noticed that many people are streaming and downloading and listening to the program later or on one of the many apps, now more than 30 apps that our show is being covered by and carried. You can download streaming 24/7. And remember, you can always read our news blog free of charge at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. This week, we do have a couple of unfortunate officer down reports to announce. 2 security officers murdered in the last 5 days. We'll get to that shortly. We do have a lot of breaking news, and really in the past couple of weeks, we've had a great opportunity once again to talk with the media about private security and the various changes that we're undergoing and the various needs. I just last week was on the NPR radio station, carried to over 4,000 radio stations nationwide and listened to online hundreds of thousands of times worldwide, according to NPR. Now, during this panel 1-hour show, I had the opportunity to really get the message out to all of their listeners about the changes in private security, the dangers, and the way that things are going right now with private security being often hired to do what was once law enforcement duties. More and more of our security officers are being injured and killed, just like I stated a moment ago, with 2 more security officers killed in the past 5 days, gunned down. During the NPR radio show, I really was pleasantly surprised. One of our panel members was the reporter from Time magazine, which did a 3-part news story on the security industry earlier this year. Although it wasn't covered exactly the way that I would have preferred the content to really go deeper into private security, it did a relatively good job, and I thought it stayed in the middle. And I was quite surprised that the reporter from Time magazine was there on the panel, and that was good. It was a good conversation. Also, the moderator, I thought the whole show went pretty well, and much better than expected, honestly. But the message here in print, in audio, and even on our local news and cable news about private security is that times are changing, and security has always been on the front line and always been victim to assaults and killings. I have to agree with the reporters. I was also interviewed about 10 days ago with a online website, news website, national news site, and that will be coming out here this week. But I have to agree with his assessment as well. It's okay to have private security taking over many of the patrols on city streets and neighborhoods and parks, schools, and various other non-typical clients, as long as they have proficient training and the level of training necessary to do their job, to do it well, to be able to assess the situation and not overuse any level of force, which we are seeing and have been seeing for quite some time, all due to the lack of training. Overall, I do believe that many of the reporters and media are really beginning to look at this subject in a much different light as they see many security officers attempting to do a good job, to keep the peace, to keep people safe, property safe, and yet with very little training and very little understanding as to what is the law, what can be done, what cannot be done. And I think that overall their philosophy and their views are changing. Now, some would disagree with that, but I've talked now to more than 20 reporters in the last year, been interviewed by Fox, the national Fox. I've been interviewed by Boston Globe, Time Magazine, the AP, numerous local TV and news stations. So I've gotten a better handle on what the media is seeing and their position. And I have to be honest, I'm really siding with some of their concerns, because we don't want security people who yesterday was working for Waffle House, today carrying a firearm with 6, 8, 10 hours of training. I don't believe that's safe for the security officer, and I don't believe that's safe for the public. I invite you to chime in. Contact us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. This conversation is not over. It has not ended. It's only just begun, not only with the media, but law enforcement, regulatory agencies, and others, as more and more companies look forward to having their place protected by private security at any cost. And I know of companies, I've heard of companies who are paying more than $50 an hour to private security. And recently there was a news article about a police officer or police department who is subbing out their police officers at $100+ an hour. And you're going to see that people who want to be safe and secure will pay the price, whatever that might be. And that's good for the security officer, because they too are being paid more. I've been discussing the wages of private security for the last couple of years. There are many places across the country, from California to Virginia and beyond, that's paying security $25 to $30 or more per hour. I just this past week had a conversation with a company about standardizing wages among his employees and others in the area. And I think you're going to see that as security officers take on more responsibility, more duties, more authority, that's going to be good for them financially, benefit-wise. Professionalism definitely is part of this equation. And I just see this as more and more and more businesses, communities, and other clients that never would have hired security are hiring security. I just see this as just a good thing. We are having some work here in the studio, so we got a little background noise, but we are going to take a quick break. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector. Across the country, there's a new 3-digit emergency number if you're feeling suicidal, if you're experiencing a life crisis. 988 is now the 3 digits that you can dial, just like 911 across the country. You'll connect with mental health professionals, and the 988 number will connect you with the Crisis Lifeline, formerly known as the National Suicide Prevention Line. Veterans can press 1 after dialing 988 to connect directly to the Veterans Crisis Lifeline, which serves our nation's veterans, service members, National Guard, and Reserve members, and those who support them. For text, veterans should continue to text the Veterans Crisis Lifeline short code 838255. Too many people experience suicidal crisis or mental health-related distress without the support and care that they need. But you're not alone. Simply pick up the phone and dial or text 988. Someone will answer that phone, who is caring, understanding, and there to help you. 988. There is hope. Franklin Dean, a security officer in Kansas, was shot to death this past week. Police say that he was working to get a trespasser off the property when gunshots rang out. The suspect is not in custody. Police in Los Angeles also say a security officer there was found dead at a dispensary on Crenshaw Boulevard. Police responded to shots fired. When they arrived, they found 27-year-old Francisco Alonso, the security officer, dead, shot multiple times. Police speculate that there was possibly a robbery and that the suspects were trying to rob the marijuana dispensary and that they killed the security officer. Police didn't say if anything was taken. They don't have any suspects. And tragically, very close to where our school is, just outside of Richmond, Virginia, a Virginia State University police officer responding to a disturbance Saturday night was shot. He is clinging to life. He was critically injured. Right now, the hospital says that they don't know. This is definitely a life-threatening injury, and Virginia police, including the state police and special agents, are working to apprehend the suspect. They haven't released any other information. Despite all of the shootings across the country involving law enforcement and private security, we still don't have any national law, and this is something that was brought up on NPR and has been brought up in Time Magazine and other interviews that I've done. We still don't have any national law that says security officers or private police officers should be compensated if they're shot, or if they're killed in the line of duty. They are not, even the private police officers are not given any type of the families are not given any type of financial assistance like public law enforcement is. And there's a lot of work to be done to recognize those who give their life both in private security as well as private law enforcement. We have worked for more than 20 years to establish foundations, to establish financial assistance to families, to work with Crime Stoppers and others. And I believe as security is more at the front line and private law enforcement is now at the front line, that you're going to see more fatally wounded officers, and we need to be able to compensate their family, to assist their family. And we ask that you go to our page at privateofficer.org, go to the benevolent page and donate as much as you can. Donate regularly, because without your support, we're not able to assist these officers who are injured or these families of the loved ones who are killed in the line of duty. Coming up is Thanksgiving, Christmas. We have now entered officially into one of the most dangerous times of the year for private security. During the Christmas shopping days and New Year's, many security officers are injured, shot, and killed, and it's every year. We talk about it every single year. Again, I just want to put this fresh in your mind, that if you're working on the street, if you're working on the front line, regardless of what your position is, that this is a dangerous time of year and you need to take it as such. Many security officers are being injured in the retail environment. We just had one over the last 2 days. This happened in Pennsylvania at a mall where a shoplifting went very bad. Suspects pulled guns. The security officer was injured. Thankfully, he's still alive. But keep in mind that this is one of the most dangerous times of years. You really need to have your head on a swivel, have good assessment skills, understand what's happening in front of you, and make quick decisions as do you retreat or do you move forward? And if you move forward, are you really prepared to go all out, go all the way, and do whatever it takes to either detain, capture, arrest the suspect, or keep others safe. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to the Private Officer Beat Radio, the voice of the frontline protector. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. Whether you're looking for the top quality protective armor or protective clothing, stab-resistant vests or gloves, contact my friend Ben over at Body Armor USA. Give him a call, 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516-817-1666. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. No doubt about it. At least once a month, we try to recognize the good that we do, both law enforcement and private security, serving the community, protecting the community, and going above and beyond. A story out of Syracuse. This is an example of how police are coming together and partnering with private security. The Syracuse Police Department announced that they will partner with the Destiny USA Mall during the holiday season. This is going to be a temporary program to see how it works out. They will combine their efforts, including mobile patrols, foot patrols, and bicycle patrols during the holiday season. We are seeing this really throughout the country. Jeffrey Stein performed CPR and brought a man back to life in a mall. This happened in Florida. The security officer was on patrol when he spotted several people on the floor and stopped to investigate. He performed CPR and EMS was able to arrive. An AED was used, and today the man is back home to spend the holidays with his family. A court security officer in Maricopa County, Arizona, has earned his doctorate. Ronald McNair, 63, held 3 jobs. During the course of his school classes, he earned a bachelor's, a master's, and now finally a doctorate, working day and night. He worked at the courthouse during the day, and then he was an LP agent for Home Depot, and then he worked as a coach instructor, and he is really to be commended. He gets high marks from me, and really, there are so many opportunities here for everyone, but especially if you're security or law enforcement, you can continue your career simply by taking some educational courses. It doesn't have to be a degree program, but certainly a degree program doesn't hurt. A Lorain, Ohio police officer is saluted for his response to a shooting outside of a elementary school. Lorain is a suburb of Cleveland. Police said at 2:35 p.m. students were being let out of the school when school resource officer Nick Grace was monitoring the area during dismissal. According to law enforcement, shots were fired. Immediately, the police officer responded. There's video of him showing him entering the area where shots were fired, and then a foot pursuit continued to a house. Police called out SWAT, and an arrest of the shooter was made. Again, this police officer did not hesitate, did not turn back, did not wait. He went to where the shots were fired. Security in St. Louis is being praised after they too had a shooting at a high school. 4 security officers recently awarded for their service for going above and beyond. They sheltered several of the students, contacted police, and prevented any of the shooters from getting into the school. Also coming out of St. Louis, Missouri, police officers from the St. Charles City Police Department immediately began CPR when one of their officers with the Veterans Affairs Police Department went down. Police were able to use CPR and AED to bring the officer back, and he is doing quite well. I think I brought this story to you a few weeks ago, but it needs to be repeated. In Greenwich, Connecticut, a security officer working at a jewelry store was there when a robbery suspect came in and stole $175,000 in jewelry and then fled. He began chasing the man. Police, also in the area, got involved. They did finally chase down the suspect. They were able to get Eduardo Batista Galarreta in custody. Police say that the efforts of the security officer and the passing police officer stopped this violent criminal from going any further. Of course, all of these are to be highly recognized, and we will be sending awards to all of these. Remember, if you see or know of any security or law enforcement that needs to be recognized, you don't have to wait for our annual award program. No, sir. You can send that information to us right away. helpdesk@privateofficer.com. I'll be right back. We've got a lot of breaking news I want to bring to you. Are you looking for the finest private security officer training in the Charlotte metropolitan area? Do you need PPS qualifications in armed or unarmed training? Or maybe you're over there across the line in South Carolina and you need the SLED training. Well, we've got the right training at the right time for you. Premier Training Academy, located at 5624 Executive Center Drive, Suite 142 in metropolitan Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today, 704-806-4933. They also offer firearms training, personal protection, first aid and CPR, and so much more. Call John at 704-806-4933. If you're not already receiving breaking news and our bi-weekly newsletter, Officer Down reports, and discount training news in your personal or business email, then go to our website right now at privateofficer.org. privateofficer.org. A Dropbox will come down. Just fill out your info, and you'll be the first, one of the first,
for sure, to know about what's happening in the security industry. You'll know when a security officer is killed. You'll also get these great discounts on training and equipment and so much more. privateofficer.org. And if you're not already a member of the Private Officer International Association, sign up while you're there today. Become a lifetime member for just $99, and we'll also include a free Private Officer International patch and lapel pin.
Remember, you can read our breaking news every day at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. It's all fresh. We don't give you anything stale. Coming out of Pennsylvania, a security officer was injured during an armed shoplifting incident. This happened at the Persia Mall in Upper Marion County, Pennsylvania. The security officer was injured. The man had a firearm, several others involved. No suspects are in custody. Police are asking for anyone's information if they were in the area. A security officer is dead at a South Los Angeles dispensary after shots were fired. Police responded to the 6600 block of Crenshaw Boulevard, where they found a deceased 27-year-old Francisco Alonso, a security officer. Police are surmising through their investigation that this probably was a robbery of the marijuana dispensary. They don't know if any product was stolen. This investigation is in its infancy. Just south of our campus in Virginia, Richmond Police, Chesterfield Police, State Police, and special agents are investigating after a Virginia State University police officer was shot in Chesterfield County. It happened about 1:34 yesterday morning. Police responded after a disturbance. The officer confronted someone, police don't know who, and that's when he was shot. He is in very critical condition right now at the Virginia Commonwealth University Medical Center in Richmond. He does have life-threatening injuries. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers. Police say they are conducting an intense investigation and search. In Baltimore, Maryland, Royal Farms, which is a convenience store, and a security company called Maximum Protective Service, is being sued after one of their security officers shot a person last year, and the investigation determined that the security officer wasn't licensed properly, didn't have a background check, and shouldn't have even been on the job. She has been charged with second-degree murder. Kenesha Spence was that person who was working security, and the attorneys now are suing the store and the security company. A Chattanooga, Tennessee security guard was arrested this past week and charged with aggravated assault with a weapon. The employee of Security Engineers, a regional security company in the South, was charged with assault, aggravated assault, and theft after a confrontation where Brett Baldrige, 30, took a hoverboard away from an individual and then hit him with that hoverboard. This happened at a park area in the Chattanooga area. He has since been released. An off-duty security officer, but in uniform, was riding a CATS bus. This happened in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Charlotte Area Transit System, CAT. And suddenly a confrontation ensued on board the bus. The off-duty security officer got into a physical altercation with a passenger. Police are investigating. That employee was an employee of Allied Universal. Security in Texas is currently looking at having more armed officers. Several companies said that just in recent months, their new clients want their security to be armed instead of unarmed. The governor of Texas also signed into law that all schools have to have armed security officers. Also coming out of Texas, Leander ISD Board, that's the independent school district in Central Texas, is now creating their own police department. Where have I heard that before? More schools and hospitals and private businesses nationwide continue to create their own police department. The budget will include a police chief, 10 officers, equipment, training, and vehicles. A Chicago man shot a security bouncer outside of the South Loop strip club this past week. According to police, Guadalupe Martinez Jr., 27, now faces an attempted murder, aggravated battery, and discharge of a firearm, all felonies within the state of Illinois. A high school security officer was knocked down and beaten in Jacksonville, Florida. The student knocked the security officer to the ground and then assaulted him. That security officer's name not released, but that student faces criminal charges. In Morrisville, North Carolina, that's just northeast of Charlotte, a man is dead after an armed confrontation with a Morrisville police officer outside of the Ardell County Hospital. Security there said the man had a gun. They told him to take the gun to the vehicle. He refused. When police arrived, he pulled the gun, and then that's when officers fired the fatal shots. A security guard in Allen, Texas is fired after he left his firearm accidentally in a teacher's restroom. This happened at the Story Elementary School in Allen. The security officer apologized. It was an accident, but unfortunately he lost his job over it. Another school security officer, this one in Port Charlotte, Florida, was assaulted. A mother of a child at the school tried to run that security officer over. Police arrested Terry Jane Samuels Catalan, 42. She says she wasn't trying to run him over. It just looked that way. Police across the country say that they are forming ORC teams with LP agents, organized retail crime. We have been discussing this for several years now. Sophisticated technology is being brought in by many stores and malls, including facial recognition, license plate readers, and other AI technology. Police now in a number of states have ORC teams that combine law enforcement and police. Here is another story that reiterates what I just said. Mall of America is using additional technology to assist their large security staff to do their job better and more efficiently. They've added in recent months body cameras. They have more surveillance cameras, high technology, high tech, and they say that they have long worked with the Bloomington, Minnesota police, and this will help them. A man secretly lived in a shopping mall 4 months even after he was found out by security. This was Bed Bath & Beyond insane, a bread and breakfast like none other inside a mall. Surveillance video shows the man going to and fro after hours. He even had a bed, a computer, a television. Yes, security did stumble upon him, but agreed not to say anything because the man was homeless. He was eventually found by another security officer napping and taken into custody. In Chicago, a transit security officer there was threatened with a knife. Police responded to the assault. This was after the man was making lewd comments to a woman and security intervened. The man pulled out a knife and threatened to assault the security officers. Police did take him into custody. Well, believe it or not, the D.C. mayor, who, for all intents and purposes, orchestrated the police department's less authority over the last few years, has now signed legislation to roll those reforms back after a large spike in crime, including carjackings and murders, has now addressed the crime with a new legislation. It's called ACT, Addressing Crime Trends, believe it or not. Now, this legislation gives police more authority and hopefully will help to cut down on some of the violence. A suspect is under arrest after shooting a security officer. This happened at the North Star Mall in San Antonio. This was actually an LP agent at the Macy's department store there who stopped the shoplifter. He pulled the gun and shot one of the security officers. Coming out of Wappington Falls, New York, I may have pronounced that incorrectly, a gas explosion injured 4 police officers among 10 total that was injured. Police responding to the call of some type of explosion tried to search and rescue anyone that was in the building when they too were injured. In Dallas, Texas, a security officer was critically injured after being shot. This happened last week. According to authorities, the shooter is still on the run. Police say the security officer at a shopping center tried to evict the person. A confrontation ensued. Again, that suspect is on the loose. A man in Port Huron, Michigan, died after security there detained him and held him face down to the ground. This was after an altercation inside a nightclub. Police are investigating. No charges have been lodged. A Burlington man arrested for threatening security there with a knife. Police responded, arrested 53-year-old Craig Adams after he threatened security. Police said that he refused to cooperate, and police were called. He's been charged with aggravated assault with a weapon and resisting arrest. Coming out of Oconee County, South Carolina, a man has been arrested there for driving his vehicle through a nuclear station's gate and then trying to run down armed security staff. Police, deputy sheriffs, and others responded to assist the officers. That vehicle took off and fled, but was later found. Police say that man is facing both federal and state charges. There's no report of any injuries of the security officers. Listen to this, also coming out of Washington, D.C. You can't make this stuff up, folks. Police in D.C. are dealing with hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of carjackings. Not to mention car thefts. Many of the carjackings are actually being done by juveniles under the age of 16. And there are many, many hundreds of other vehicles being stolen inside the District of Columbia. Well, believe it or not, and you can check the facts, the mayor is giving away ear tags. That's right, ear tags. And they're not the only one. In New York City Mayor Eric Adams gave away 500 ear tags recently to stop car thefts. And there are other police departments that they too are looking to hand out ear tags as a way to recover stolen vehicles. Yeah, you can't make it up. A former Lee High School security guard in Alabama has been charged with sexual assault of a student. Gregory Langford has pled guilty. Rather than sexual contact, he's pled guilty to a lesser charge to harassment. When you see news happening here along the Gulf Coast, be sure, or any place in the U.S., be sure that you contact us, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We'll be right back.
From coast to coast, cops are cracking down on seatbelt violations. Buckle up day and night or expect a ticket. where you live, they'll be on the lookout. Cops write tickets to save lives. Click it for ticket.
Are you a recently retired or maybe active law enforcement officer looking for a different future, maybe owning your own business, former military, public safety, private security professional, EMS, or the fire service, looking for a new way to make a difference while running and owning your own business? At Public Safety Services, we provide services to those who protect us around the world. I'm talking about the police, the sheriff's department, the military. Our organization provides community service officers, private law enforcement, prisoner transport, traffic investigators, and many other public safety service related services to law enforcement agencies across the nation. You can own your own business, be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. Contact us at publicsafetyservices.org. Let's talk about how you can make a difference today while owning your own business. This morning on the Private Officer Beat Radio, I want to talk about some of the things that's happening across the country and has been happening for quite some time. And that is the call for more training, more accreditation, and more standardization of the private security industry. Across the U.S., only about 38 states regulate private security, although some states are really advanced, other states are minimal at best. Being in law enforcement, the fire service, and EMS my entire life, I have seen what accreditation and standardization does for an agency. I have seen how certifications work for best outcomes for individuals. If you were to be a plumber, an electrician, a teacher, even a nurse assistant, you would undergo substantial training. Your employer would have some type of professional license. In the law enforcement, fire service, and EMS, there are many different types of accreditations. In the fire service, the Center for Public Safety Excellence and the Pro Board, two individual accrediting agencies, accreditate fire departments and firefighters. In order to be a firefighter, even a volunteer firefighter, you must be certified by the Pro Board, a national accreditation agency. Across the U.S., there are standards even for volunteers. Each state also has state fire academies that certify firefighters. The International Fire Service Accreditation is a national standard as well for the fire service. In law enforcement, you have POST, Police Officer Standard Training, Standard requirements across the country. Every state has one. It may be called something different, but that's what they do. They accreditate, they certify both the police agency as well as the law enforcement officer. And there's also CALEA, which is the Commission on Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies. They also accreditate police academies. This accreditation ensures that that police department, that police academy, has gone through a complete plan of action, protocols, procedures, how they handle this, that, and the other thing. In the EMS profession, the Committee on Accreditation of Educational Programs for the Emergency Medical Service profession is the accrediting body for EMS schools. And statewide, every state throughout the U.S. has an agency, EMS agency, that oversees all EMS providers, ambulance services, EMTs, paramedics, even the lowest level, EMR, Emergency Medical Response. The National Registry of Emergency Medical Technicians and Paramedics is the national source now that all professionals, all EMTs and paramedics have to be registered through. And this is a process. Besides the study and getting everything in order, there's exams. Whether it's law enforcement, the fire service, or EMS, electricians, plumbers, or school teachers, nurses or nurses' aides, across the country, there is a system in place to make sure that these professionals have the training, the certification, that the bodies, the schools, the employers are themselves accredited. Policies, procedures, training requirements, everything standardized, but not in the private security industry. As we went on air today, I read a story out of North Virginia where a security officer was on duty at a vacant hotel. It had been fenced in, and his sole job was to make sure that no one entered the property and no one stole any of the fixtures, plumbing, wiring, whatever it might be. 4 juveniles entered the property on the other side. He saw them walking through the property. He drove his vehicle up to them, and immediately, according to the news article, I wasn't there, I don't know, he pulled his firearm. Why would you pull your firearm on 4 juveniles who have trespassed? At this point, we're only talking about trespassing. There's been no burglary unless they cut through the fence or did some other method of entry that could be classified as a burglary. And unfortunately, this security officer, he shot a juvenile. For whatever reason, he just shot the juvenile. These are the problems in private security that we're seeing nationwide. As I have spoken to the reporters, as I've done interviews, as I've done training, year after year after year, we highlight that security can do the job. I have no doubt that many of the jobs once performed by law enforcement can be done by private security. But I stopped there because I also know that there needs to be some type of accreditation body or standardization to make this happen. Standardization is just the process of developing, promoting, and possibly even mandating standards. Getting everything in line where you have standards. Things are outlined. We're not just guessing. We're just not going off the cuff. We're not just playing it. Oh, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That's not how professionals perform their job. Technology standards need to be part of the equation as more and more companies are using technology, whether that be tasers or robots, drones or electronic monitoring. I think that in the security industry, we're still the good old staffing company. We still have the mentality that we're just putting a body there. We're just having someone on the premises to be the eyes and ears. And maybe security companies want to continue telling them that because of liability, because they don't want their people to get involved. But the reality is that security officers are going to get involved on any type of post or assignment because that's their job. If someone's breaking in, if someone's trespassing, if someone's causing a disturbance, part of our job is to respond and try to defuse it, try to investigate it, and assess it prior to calling law enforcement. If we call the police every time there's an incident on any property where private security is placed, they wouldn't be able to do their jobs because they would be responding to every little thing that security is reporting. For the next few weeks, and maybe into the new year, we're looking at the standardization, how to standardize your company. So let me give you a little insight, having gone through this myself, on what happens when you go through an accreditation process, whether that be for a college or whether that be for a police department or some other professional organization that you want to be accredited by. One of the first things that's done once you've filled out the paperwork, the process, application, all of the written stuff, is what's called a self-assessment. And a self-assessment gives you the opportunity to go through all of your current policies, procedures, all of your standards that you have in place. Now, the accreditation body will often give you a list of areas that you need to have policies on, areas that you need to have procedures on, and what the requirements should be if XYZ happens, and then if something else happens, how would you respond? And to give you an example, if I were to come in to your office today and ask to see your policy and procedure book, that play-by-play of how you would handle various issues that come up when you have employees, would you have one? How old is it? How long ago was it written? And do you use it? Is it something you're going to have to go search for? Is it something you're going to have to dust off? Is it something that we just do it verbally? It just, we play it by ear. We just play, we wing it. We don't really have it in, writing. It's kind of like people that they have recipes in their head, but when they go to make something, sometimes it changes because they don't forget, they don't remember all of the things that go in that recipe. When you're doing this type of work, we can't wing it. You have to have written policies and procedures for everything. And here are some of the things that an accrediting body would be looking at in a security company or a police agency. Policies and procedures. What are your standard training requirements? Well, we don't do that. We do 12 hours. That's what's required by the state. That's not good enough. What are your internal training requirements? Do you have any recertification training? Do you have any residual training? Do you have any specialized training for people who work high crime areas, housing projects, retail stores, places where they're going to have a high propensity for interaction with possible criminal activity and criminals themselves? Do you have a use of force policy? Do you have an after action when the use of force has occurred? In the last year, I've had the opportunity to speak with 3 different security companies about a use of force incident. I don't know why they feel like they can call POI even if they're not a member, but we talk to everybody, member or not. And in each one of those, they had no procedure. They had no policy, no written policy as to, all right, well, we've had a use of force, whether it's lethal or non-lethal. What do we do? How do we write this up? How do we investigate it? How do we make sure that not only did the officer do the right thing, but that if there was a problem, we have a method to correct it? What would be our after action in these situations? Unfortunately, big and small security companies, and maybe Allied has these type of policies and procedures in place, but they may or may not be used on a regular basis. But security companies across the country, whether you have 5 employees or 500 employees, you need to have a standardized method of doing A, B, C, D all the way down the line. Do you have a marijuana policy? Do you know that marijuana is still illegal in all 50 states? It doesn't matter what the state allows because it's still against the federal law. And did you know that if your employee was smoking marijuana 2 days ago and he's involved in a use of force action, that he could be arrested? Yes, he could. A drug test would be performed, and if he fails that, not only could he be arrested because he has a firearm while under the influence of marijuana, but also if there's an injury to him or to another individual, your workers' comp or general liability insurance may not, probably will not cover that claim. Do you have a drug and alcohol testing policy, procedure? Do you have a discrimination policy? Well, yeah, we just don't discriminate. That's not good enough. Everything that you do, you have to have in writing. And next week, we're going to talk about why this is so important, why the documentation, why the standardization, why all of the policies and procedures need to be not only in place, but enforced and done the same way in every situation. If you have a use of force incident, you need a method of investigating, documenting, and following up with the employee. If you don't do that every single time, then you're discriminating against each employee. And also, this could be a problem with the regulatory agency who licenses you, who license your security company, who license or certifies your employee. Across the board, accreditation and standardization is not only a good thing, but it is a necessary thing. As we move into a different area of private security and private law enforcement, these things are a must have. Next week we'll pick it up. We'll continue this conversation. Send me an email, helpdesk@privateofficer.com, if you have any comments on it or suggestions, or maybe you want to send me some of your policies and procedures and how you have standardized your own business. Until the next time, y'all be safe, be blessed, and we'll see you back here on the radio.